Got Zito, make some noise. Personal friend of mine, originally from Louisiana, moved to LA like everyone does sometimes to build their dreams, and he did just that. Built a phenomenal clientele, great endorsements with some of the biggest companies in the world, been on the biggest platforms all over the world. On his way to work one day to take care of a client. How many of you guys like motorcycles? How many of you guys ride bikes, street bikes, all that good stuff? On his way to work, gets hit, breaks his trachea, breaks his back, hurts himself. Doctors didn't think this guy was going to be able to live, let alone talk. All his teeth got knocked out, majority of them. This guy was a miracle. He recuperated, but he didn't have insurance. Thank God for his friend Virginia that I introduced you guys earlier that's going to be coming on and talking to you guys. The harsh reality is there's some people in this room that probably don't have insurance. And if you want to do them high-risk activities, which sometimes just taking or driving your vehicle is a high-risk activity, you never know. He wasn't prepared for it. Thank God GoFundMe helped him. And thank God that the community and the industry came together. So many corporations donated money for this man because he's done so much. Thank God he's alive. But also thank God for people like Virginia that came into this industry and helped us. To me, this is one of the most important classes here today because our health is our wealth. I don't care how great you got here today, tomorrow, anything could happen. If you have a family and you're not prepared for your future and you can't get behind that chair anymore. I know a Dominican barber that was cutting hair since he was 13 in the Dominican Republic. That's all he knows. And at 24 years old, got into a horrible 28 years old, got into a horrible motorcycle accident. His wife had the hospital job, and something happened. She lost her job, and he wasn't on insurance anymore. He cannot cut hair anymore. His hospital bills were so high that they went after his mortgage. So their house went into foreclosure, and they pretty much lost everything because of one day on a motorcycle. All right, guys, so I want you to think about that. So this is what happened to Ricky. He's still here. Give it up for him. He's a survivor. I've been trying to get him on my stage for 9 years. He didn't come out here to get paid. He came here to tell you guys I didn't pay this man. He just wants to share his story. So give it up for Here God Zito, y'all.
Thank you. How's everybody doing today? Everybody's doing great, huh? All right. Well, my name's Ricky Zito. I'm from Louisiana, a small town. I've been loving hair and doing hair since 1997. My parents were hairdressers. I was actually born into it. So it's about the only good thing I could do. I must admit this is my first time coming to a stage without my tools. I'm obsessed with hair, and that's all I think about. To be at the top of your game, and I was moving along, one blessing after another. It wasn't missing out. It seemed like I had the world conquered. I was sitting there at the top, like sitting pretty, feeling good. Then boom, I'm riding to work one day and a car gets over on my back tire. We're going about 65, 70 down Sunset. This happened at 8 o'clock in the morning. I was in a coma for 8 days. I kind of come to on day 7. I broke my neck in 3 places, my back, my knee, and my elbow, and a few other knickknacks. It was freaking insane, you know. They got a documentary coming out on it. And in the documentary, my girl, right when I come to, tells me I got in an accident. And I was like, what? Stop talking stupid. That's what I told her on it. But I did do a GoFundMe, and it did me good. You know, it was getting me by for sure. But I had over almost $500,000 in medical bills. What do you do then? I was working my ass off. I was doing great. Life was good if something like this didn't happen. But when it did happen, I was in a bind. I didn't have the money saved up to even start paying that, you know. Luckily, I met Virginia. Virginia, she's a financial something group. But in reality, she come through and I thought it was all crap when she was talking, and she helped me tremendously, y'all. I got all my bills covered out of medical. That's a freaking blessing in itself. That's almost $500,000. And I'm not saying this can happen for everybody, but anybody out there who's an independent contractor, you have health insurance right now, and it's free. All you gotta do is focus and pay attention. This is stuff that you shouldn't miss out on, guys. Really, you know, you're walking around, you're going to the doctor. Now I'm covered. I've never been covered my whole life. I thought insurance was a fluke. I'm not gonna lie to you. I was like, why would I pay every month? I can go to the doctor and pay $30. But I've always been healthy, and no accidents never hit me. Now, I'm like, damn, I should have been on this shit. But how many people out here as independent educators that rent a spot or own a spot? It's happy, y'all, I know it. So if y'all are that, y'all giving the money in taxes to the government anyway, they cover you for that. Y'all just need to get on this and get on this now, because y'all gonna be like me, screw blue tattooed. Come on, Georgia. Yeah.
Guys, I want you guys to give it up for Virginia. She's been in the financial industry for 20 years. She's an advisor with L'Oreal, Matrix, a certified financial educator, and a money coach to business owners. Give it up for Virginia one more time.
Good morning, everyone. How are you? Good. I'm going to talk to you guys about the most exciting world of insurance. How many of you guys are excited? Yeah. Liars. There's nothing exciting about insurance. In fact, there's nothing too much exciting about financial anything, because most people are confused. How many of you guys are really confused? You want to do something, you don't know where to go, you don't know how to get started. You get mixed messages and opinions from a lot of different people, but you don't really know what to do for yourself. And you know, I'm a certified financial educator. I've been in the financial industry for the past 20 years, almost 19 years, going on 20. I started when I was 6. So that kind of worked out, right? And thank you for those, that's my joke. I tell you, one of the main reasons why I got into this business to begin with, I didn't grow up wanting to be in the financial industry. In fact, I was far from it. But my mom was a hairdresser. How many of you guys have been in the business for more than 5 years? Okay, and after a few years of being in business, the business kind of consumes you. You're always at the business, right? You can't help yourself. You're looking at people's hair differently. Maybe you even want to touch it differently, right? It's like everything changes. And when my mom came into this industry, she was working so hard at every single appointment, every single time, back to back. And anytime we had money problems, all she said was, "I'll just book more appointments. I'll just work over the weekend." And you can always do that, you know, because in life, especially in the society we live in today, we are absolutely taught to go to work to buy something we want, right? You want to buy something, you go to work and you buy it. Nobody ever teaches us how to go to work and save up to buy something. And why is that important? Because unless you have a good financial foundation, when things get rocky, when there's a financial tornado, when there's an earthquake that happens, and I'm from California, so earthquakes happen all the time, you want to be prepared. You don't want to be left out in the cold. And I'll tell you, my mom in her own home, okay, she has a small little booth at her home. She also worked at a salon, and she worked under commission because she hopped around a lot, and you know, money was tough, so we went where we had to go. But in her own kitchen, cleaning her own kitchen floor, she falls down on a slippery floor, and she has a herniated disc. The fall is so bad, where it wasn't on a motorcycle, it wasn't on an adventure, it wasn't on a vacation, it was at home. The fall was so bad that she couldn't feel waist down, so she was halfway paralyzed. What do you think happened to her career? It was over. What do you think happened to us financially? Our lives was pretty much over. We almost lost everything. It wasn't until I actually attended a financial workshop and I wanted to learn more about how is it that sometimes people work all their life and that's all they have, just their life. They've got nothing else to show for. These are good people. These are people that go through life. They want to be prepared, but then life happens. How many of you guys have experienced life happening to you? And it's in the worst possible time, yes? And then people turn around and go, there's a lesson, learn it. What lesson? I'm drowning, right? So it's interesting that we can live in one of the wealthiest countries in the world, but nobody ever talks about money matters. These things are not taught in schools, right? I went to high school, I went to college, and sometimes you even major in finance, you don't really get to know these things. You don't really understand until you have a hard time and then you fall on your face and you go, oh, that's how I'm supposed to figure it out. But I'll ask you this question. How many of you guys, or how many times do you want to fall on your face financially before you actually learn the ropes of how money can work for you? How many of you guys are tired of working for money and you would want money to work for you? It does not have to be difficult. difficult. It does not have to be cumbersome. It does not have to be challenging. It all starts with understanding the basic rules, the basic laws. So part of my presentation here today is going to be able to help you connect, like I helped my mom connect through what she was doing with her money. You know, and in your industry, you earn money in a different way, but all of you are specialists in what you do. Nobody can replace you, right? You are your artist. Is that true? There are a lot of people who can do a similar cut or a similar shade or a similar anything, but they can't do what you do. So you are your own Picasso. You gotta protect your hands. You gotta protect your ability. And even if your family needs you financially on a temporary basis, you need yourself for the rest of your life. How many of you guys are single? How many of you guys are carrying your own weight and your own income? Nobody taught you how to do it. You did it on your own. And how many of you guys feel like, man, I'm still on my own, right? How can money work for me instead of me working for money? So I'm going to talk about some money matters. And I got to tell you, when it comes to money, there's a different kind of thinking. Financial planning is a different thinking of financial. It's very different from financial thinking. When you're thinking, when you have a financial hat on, you're always thinking about opportunities. What opportunities do you have to max out your money, right? What opportunities do you have to have your money work for you? Because I don't know about you, how many hours can you work in a day? How many? 10 hours? How many of you guys do 12 hours? Anybody does 14 hours? Anybody does 16 hours? Okay, some of you brave ones. How many of you guys have done 24 hours? What have you been cutting? 24 hours. Hopefully it looked as good as the very first time, right? We have one gentleman in the back that's done it for 24 hours. But let me ask you, how many 24 hours can you put in? I work with a lot of nurses in Virginia. We have multiple shifts. I go from one hospital to the next hospital. So I can do at least 2 24-hour shifts. And I go, man, I would hate for you to be my nurse. What if you forget a tool inside of me or something, right? So we all want to be at our best game, and that means that we have to learn about not only making money, but at the same time, how do we maximize our money? So, you know, we don't know much. Nobody teaches us much about money. These financial matters are not taught in schools. And I'll say something that Oprah Winfrey said a while back, and it's always stuck with me. She said, we can't become what we need to be by remaining where we are. So you are masters at making money. You're masters at creating the opportunities that you do. What do you do with the money? How many of you guys have ever had a week or a month? You go, man, I was busy this week. I was busy this month. Where the hell's the money? Does that ever happen? Yes, I'm going to teach you how to track it and maybe kind of look at money. Remember, financial thinking versus financial planning in a different way. You got to be a thinker before you become a planner. So if you're a thinker, planning becomes easier because there's money to plan with. But if there's nothing to plan with, then thinking is obsolete because you're just only thinking about how to survive. So here are some tips that I want you to see, okay? Budget, number one. You can't buy everything. You can't have everything. Everything in life has stages, and you got to prepare yourself, right? You also have to understand, where does your money come from? I work with a lot of stylists and artists in Matrix and L'Oreal, and one of the things that I found is they have clientele. People are coming in. They have income. They know more or less their average income coming in, so they know their consistency. But they're very vague about their expenses. The only thing that they've been able to tell me for sure is the rent that they pay. If I ask them how much money do you spend on, you know, buying other products, they go, well, it varies. It varies on what? Volume. How many people coming in and going out is important. How many stop-bys do you have? How many pop-bys do you have, right? Not pop-by like Popeye the Sailor Man, but how many people do you have that pop-by that weren't on your book to do hair for, right? That's extra money. What can you do with that money? That money was not scheduled to come in. What can you do with that extra tip that wasn't scheduled to come in? How can you put that extra money to work for you? And I know a lot of times it's just $3, $5, $30, $20, but that adds up. If you add it up at the end of the week or at the end of the day, it could be a substantial amount of money. The second thing, working hour to hour, not having long-term vision. Man, I look at you guys as stylists and you're entrepreneurs, you're creators. It was nothing before you created something special, something unique, something that only you did. And you know what? Every single time that you work, every single head that you work on is a piece of art. It's not repeated. You know why? Because that was the one time, at that time, even if the client keeps coming in, it's unique because it was your hand at that moment at that time. It's absolutely unique. Working hour to hour does not help you reach your vision. Okay, you gotta learn to pay yourself first. Who's the most important person in your entire business? You! So why would you leave yourself all the way at the end? Or sometimes it's not, you're not even existing. It's not even on the list, right? You don't even think about yourself. So you gotta understand that. You, my friends, are your most important investment. So the gentleman earlier talked about reading books, investing in your business, maybe investing in a booking company that's gonna help you book more appointments. Stay accountable to what you wanna do. You are your best investment. You also wanna definitely be able to understand that you gotta avoid impulsive buyers. How many of you guys have friends that every time you hang out with them, man, it's fun, but it costs a lot of money? Does that happen? Yeah? Maybe after work, you're at a pub or you're at a bar, or you go out there to just to hang out, and that hangout costs you $50 to $100. Does that ever happen? Yes? That's an expensive relationship. I'm not saying dump your friends. I'm just saying limit the amount of times you go out in that sense. Don't put yourself in a position where you feel guilty and you gotta spend money. That's impulsive, right? The third thing that I want to talk about is removing temptations that trigger overspending. Create an emergency fund and have a budget with it. Earlier, again, the gentleman talked about having $1,000 in your bank account. That's the first kind of emergency fund you need to have. It's that first $1,000. Man, it's not a whole lot of money, but when you look at that and it's untouchable and it's right there, it makes you, there's a certain degree of security that you feel, like a blanket over you, even though it's $1,000. Your rent might be more than that, right? But just to have that set aside makes you feel secure. You know what most people have as an emergency fund alternative? Visa and MasterCard. Right? How does that work for us? Not very well. How much are they charging you? 12, 14, 20%, right? What if I taught you by the end of today how you can position yourself so that you're earning that 12%, 14%? You like that? Yeah? We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about that. It's very important for me so that by the time that I walk off the stage, you understand how money works, not just conceptually, but you understand verbiage, you understand technique, and you're going to be able to go out there and make a difference in your own money matters. Because, if I can't make a difference for you in that sense, then I'm wasting your time. And I would hate to waste your time, because time is very valuable. So not understanding long-term goals, okay? We all know, as business owners, how to compound our effort. How many of you guys are busy bees? How many of you guys are busy all the time, but sometimes you look at your days like, what the hell did I do? Right? I was busy. I know I was busy, but I didn't get much done. Does that ever happen to you? Yeah? So we know how to compound our effort. What if I show you a way that you can compound your income through interest? How many of you guys have ever heard of Mr. Albert Einstein? How many of you guys are aware of the rule of 72 he created? I'm going to show you something that shocked me, and this is the reason why I'm so passionate about this industry, is because a simple math formula, we are bombarded in high school and college with nonsense and formula this and formula that. The one formula we need to learn in our lives we are not taught. This is devastating, and when I show you what that number is, and when I show you how that formula works, you're going to understand why it's important for you to have your money compound for you, instead of you just compounding your own efforts, right? Number 5, going without insurance. Protect your income by working smart, not just working hard. Don't leave yourself exposed. How many of you guys have something as simple as health insurance? Less than half the room. How many of you guys don't have it because it's too damn expensive? What if I told you in most cases you can get it for free? Would that astound you? What if I told you in most cases, because you're a business owner, you qualify 30 to 40% discount, subsidies? How many of you guys would be more interested in that sense? How many of you guys know if you're paying for insurance, you might be overpaying for insurance? How's that for a fact? And instead of your money working for you, you keep paying for something that doesn't end up working for you, right? How many of you guys have health insurance, and maybe you know that if you have a health savings account, an HSA account, the money that you're putting in there on a monthly basis, if you don't go to the doctor, you don't go to the emergency room, you're not using it, that money is actually accumulated and could be used as a deductible. So in case you have an accident, in case you have a need, you don't have to fork up another $2,000, $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 as a deductible. You can use your premiums. Is that awesome? There are so many tools that we need to know of, but all we are taught to do is put our head down and go to work. For how long? For whom? Who's going to take care of you at the end? You just saw Zito come up here, right? And it was amazing. He came to me after the accident. He came to me for help after that happened. You're already in an accident. Most insurance companies would say, pre-existing condition, you're done, right? But he didn't know that there's a certain kind of coverage that is free, and we can actually prorate it so that the established date is 3 months ahead of time, covering all costs, covering all losses. So he didn't pay a dime of his expenses. You are taxpayers, yes? You are the entrepreneur. You are the person that makes this economy go around. They owe it to you. You got to know about that. It's out there. It's available. But how many of us know about it? Very, very small percentage. So my job as an educator, the reason why I came into this industry is because just like you, my family was left behind. My mom was left behind. Because we didn't have zeros in our bank account, nobody ever reached out to say, hey, there's a this, there's a that, here's how you can benefit. Everything was at a cost, not at a benefit to us. It wasn't until 20 years ago when I started getting involved, and I said, my goodness, if it's this simple, if it's this easy, if it's this doable, why don't people know about it? You know why? Because that's how the industry makes money, that's why. The banks don't want you to know about it. The agencies don't want you to know about it. Well, that's how they make money. If something comes for free, there's no money in it for them. But I'm all about making money work for you. So if there's an opportunity that I can help you save, I'd rather show you how you can allow that money to compound for you in other areas so you're not slaving away at that chair. And if you want to retire because you want to retire, not because your health has forced you to retire. When you want to retire, you want to retire the way you want to retire, going on the vacations and the things that you want to do, not because your age mandates you to do. Most people that I come across through the programs that I work with, again, through L'Oreal and Matrix, I ask them, what's your retirement age? And they say, when I physically can't do what I do. That's a sad retirement, my friends. That's a sad retirement. Why not retire at the top of your game? Why not retire at the top of your income? Why not retire at the top of your ability so you can enjoy the fruits of your labor? That's what today is about, right? So, not understanding your financial DNA is tragic because nobody teaches us. It's interesting because we are taught to go to work. We are taught to create bills. We are taught to spend. We are not taught to save. Because if you look at the average interest rate where most people save their money at the bank, how much is the interest rate? 0 point nothing. How are you going to get ahead? How are you going to get ahead? This is why most people say, well, let me just invest it back in my business. At least if I lose my money, I know I did something for my business, right? We don't know what our financial DNA is about. We're programmed to see something that we want and go to work for it. How many of you guys believe in energy? Yes? The higher the energy, the higher the money. Is that right? Hello? That was a yes. Let me try that again. Higher the energy, the higher the income. Yes? There you go. I know it's almost lunchtime, but hang in with me. I promise I'm going to give you some great nuggets. So, if you believe in energy, we all have energy batteries within us, and sometimes life gets you really, really down and your battery's really low. Has that ever happened? Yes? How many of you guys feel the low in your energy when you're looking at the bank account? Does that ever happen? It's like, where's the money? There's no money, honey. And if there's no money, there's no honey. Sometimes there's money, there's no honey. So can you imagine if there's no money, there's no honey at all? So that's our battery. Okay, and your battery life only reignites when you go back to work. You create more assets, you create more opportunities, it goes into the bank account, you're spending it first, you're not thinking of saving, so you're down to the same negative or to the same number. It becomes habitual. Okay, we are all programmed the same way. So you gotta learn, since you're a spender, and most of us are, instead of going through and revolutionizing your behavior, because that doesn't happen. How many of you guys have a bad habit? How many of you guys have tried to completely change your bad habit and you failed? Be honest. Okay. You know why we fail? Because we want to go cold turkey. We were in a certain way all our lives, and then we just want to swap that. We just want to completely do a 180, right? Well, you can't do that. Your mind's not used to it. Your body's not used to it. You got to take little steps at a time. So instead of thinking about the negative part of what you do, why not add something positive to what you do on a daily basis, right? For example, when I first started saving, I started putting jars together for my mom, okay? She had a tip jar. She had an unexpected income jar. Do you know what that was? That was a cut that wasn't supposed to be scheduled, that wasn't scheduled, that just decided to come in. So that was all jars, and at the end, I had to physically show her that there's more money coming in than she thinks, because she didn't know what was coming in. She was just busy hustling and paying her bills. When she saw the amount of money coming in, I said, now let's structure this. Let's see what we can do with this, right? And that's going to the next step. Not growing and reinvesting loyalty money with new money. Understanding where your income's coming from. So, if you look at loyalty money, what's loyalty money? People time. You are their stylist. You do their hair. You do their head. Everything that they need, they come to you. That's loyalty money every single time. You know, when somebody's coming in, you're doing their hair, you're booking that appointment in the next week, right? I'll see you in 2 weeks. I'll see you in a week. I'll see you in a month. Whatever that may be. That's loyalty money. That's anticipated income coming in. So check in daily to see what's in the bottom line, and you'll get into the habit of actually separating about 10% of your reoccurring loyalty money. You got to see if you can save 10% of your tips and segregate 100% of all money that wasn't expected to come in. So if you had somebody just pop in for a cut, you had somebody to pop in for whatever it is that they come to you for, that's money that you didn't expect. Set that aside as if they didn't come. Who do you work so hard for anyway? Who do you work so hard for? The government? Yourself, your family. So let's make sure that you have an opportunity to make your dreams a reality, right? Committing to yourself too thin. And this is something that I've seen stylists from all walk of life do. They want to have their fingers in all types of jars, right? But I got to tell you, got to prioritize as to what game you want to win first, right? What fight you want to fight. What fight you want to win first. You can't have everything at the same time. Choose your fight. Choose where you want to be. You need financial goals. You need business goals. And you need an accountability system to stay on track towards those goals. Without a plan, everything looks like a good idea, right? Everything looks like a good idea. And at the time, it seems like you've got time, right? But then when life happens to you, everything suddenly stops. And things don't go forward, and you don't go forward financially because you've got your hands in too many different pots. Does that ever happen to you guys? Yes? So let's talk about this. What kind of systematic approach can you have towards financial goals? Do you know what comes in every month? And if you're revisiting what comes in every day, it's easier for you to keep up every week. It's easier to keep up every month. It's easier to keep up every quarter, right? If you understand how much money is coming in and where it's going, let's look at what we can do to support you to understand what you could do with your money. And the understanding of I'll just make more money mentality doesn't work. Doesn't work. You want to charge yourself, you got to have some goals. The biggest charger in life is having something bigger that you're fighting for outside of the daily run, outside of the daily stress that you go through, right? So what goals do you have? What are some big, insane, crazy goals that have no business being on paper for you today? Maybe you're not there financially, maybe you're not there skill-wise, maybe you're not there connection-wise, but it's something that you want to do, something that's insane, something that you have no right and even writing on a piece of paper because it's ridiculous, right? If you have a ridiculous goal, but that's a goal that's yours and it's unique to you and it'll keep you up at night, it'll wake you up in the morning, that's better than money because money comes and goes. But if you have a bigger goal that you're striving towards, that's going to keep your dream alive. That's going to keep what you do alive. So let's talk about this, okay? How do we go through and help you protect that income that you create? How do we make sure that you don't go through the traditional pitfalls that you go through? And in fact, how many of you guys are really serious about learning how money works? All right, for the first 7 people that jump on up here on stage, I'm going to give you something free. Come on up, 7 people only. Whoa. All right, stop, no more. Jack, if I can have the books. All right, yeah, come on up. All right, give these guys a big hand. I'm going to give you a book, okay? I'm going to teach you how millionaires think, all right? Oh, wow, I've got extras. Okay, 3 more. Run. There you go. And I promise to give you my book, but at the end. Is that okay? Let me finish the presentation. I'll give it to you at the end. Okay. You're all set. Thank you, guys. Let's give these guys a hand. You jumped up. Wow. Talk about being aggressive in life, yes? Nobody's going to volunteer you for anything. You got to jump out of your seat first. So how many of you guys would love to get your hands on a book like this? Let me tell you, this is the easiest book you can read. This is a conversation from one friend to another. Anything that's ever confused you or you want to think twice about, limits, exemptions, opportunities, it's in this book. It's absolutely in this book. I'm actually going to share a few pages of this book, but I'll tell you something at the end. There's a special surprise for everybody that's here at the end. So stay tuned, and I'm going to give you something at the end, which could give you this book for free. Things that you can hold on, you can read, you can grow with. And if you have any questions, my number's here. You can get in touch with us, and I'll show you how to do that later on. So let's talk about this, okay? Let me show you one of the biggest things that just, when I saw this, I fell off my chair. So hang on to your chair. Check this out. If you have the book, you can follow along. I believe it's on page 11. And this is just talking about how interest compounds. We're used to compounding our effort. We're used to compounding our time, right? We're trying to hire other people to do more and maybe split the sale so we can earn more at the same time. We're used to leveraging that, but nobody ever teaches us how to leverage our money. So take a look at this, the rule of 72. How does that work? This is a formula that we use to calculate how long it's going to take us to be able to double our money. How many of you guys want to double your income? And you have a business plan. Maybe you see, you know, if you hire so many people, or if you do so many cuts, or you do so many of this, so many of that, you'll be able to double your income, right? That's you bringing it in. That's your effort. That's your effort. I'm going to teach you an effortless way to be able to do that. So how does the rule of 72 work? You basically take the number 72, you divide it by the interest that you're making. By the way, what was the bank giving you? 0 point nothing. Say it. 0 point nothing. You are worth more than that. Is that true? So let's do math. How many of you guys are good at math? Did anybody tell you we're going to have a math test at the end? No? You can't get the book if you can't do this math. All right, I'll help you out, all right? 72 divided by what? 72. 72 divided by 0.1. Over 100 years. So let's just keep that 1, okay? If you're earning 1% and you have money working for you that's earning 1%, it's going to take you 72 years for you to be able to double your money. I don't know where you are with your age, but adding 72, does that look like your desired retirement age? No. So let's try this again, okay? So what if you were able to earn 4%? What if you could earn 8% or 12%? What would that mean? If you look at the difference in the percentages, 8 is only 2 times more than 4, right? And 12 is 3 times more than 4. But what do you think happens to the money part of it? What do you think happens to the pot? Compounding, how much more? Think about it, right? 8% is 2 times more than 4. How much more do you have at the end though? It's ridiculous. Are you ready to get shocked? Are you holding on to your chairs? Watch this. 29 years old, because I figured everybody in this audience is about 29. Yes? I figured that. Some people are happy, some people are depressed. All right, that's an average. 29 years old. Let's say you had about $10,000. This money does not matter. Money could be $1,000, money could be $1. It doesn't matter. It's just a figure. Are you guys following me? You do not need $10,000 to start saving and investing. And you can start with $1 a day. But this is just for the purpose of giving you an illustration so you see how powerful compounding interest is. So if you're saving 10,000 under 4% and you're 29, you take 72 divided by 4, it's going to give you 18. That means it's going to double every 18 years. Not bad, not bad. So here's what it looks like. 18 years later, when you're 29, you'll be 47, and your money doubled will be $20,000. Anybody excited about that? Not bad. And if you're at 65, because traditionally that's what the industry tells us to believe, that we get to retire at 65, you're at $40,000. How many of you guys are excited about $40,000? You shouldn't be. You know why? Because inflation in our nation is about 3%. So, I mean, I live in California. I don't live in the nation. I live in California specifically. And in California, it's about 5%, right? So my money's not working for me here. My money's dying on this corner, right? So if I do the same thing, I invest in the 8% realm. Check this out. 72 divided by 8 is 9. It takes me half the time, right? I get to double it in half the time. But look at what happens with my final numbers. At 38, 9 years later, I've already got the 20,000. At 47, I've got 40,000. At 56, I've got 80,000. And at 65, I have a whopping $160,000. Look at that. It's 4 times more, isn't it? It's double the interest, but it's 4 times more. What if you were able to see it with 12%? Ridiculous. Take a look at that. 72 divided by 12. It's the same math every 6 years. So 12% is like getting on your Ferrari and taking the high-speed road, right? And the other one's like walking. No, it's like crawling. You don't get anywhere. So 10,000, 12%, 6 years. At 35, you have 20,000. At 41, you have 40,000. 6 years later, at 47, you've got 80,000. 53, 160. I'm going to go until 65. At 59, 320. And at 65, 640,000. Is that sick? What do you think the bank does when they pay you 1%? They lend it to somebody else at 12%, 14%, 16%. What happens when you're paying that 12%? Now do you understand why it takes you forever to pay off your debt if you're paying it based off of their schedule? Don't worry, there are free programs available to you to get rid of your debt in 1/3 of the time without killing yourself. Is that pretty amazing? You do that and you put the money to work for you, you watch what happens with the rule of 72. It's insane. The difference between the 4% and the 12% is more than just the percentage, my friends. $600,000 on average is the salary for someone that's receiving $30,000 a year for 20 years. How many people do you know that make $30,000 a year? That's a 20-year income right there. That's a 20-year. Do you think that's a pretty big deal? Yes? Have you already learned something today? Let me show you what else you can do, okay? That's $64,000. Do you think all that money is yours? Who said that? You're gonna get a book. You're right. It's not. Why isn't it yours? You're also gonna get a book. Taxes. Now, we have two kinds of taxes we pay, right? Depending on where you live. We have state and federal. So in California, I'll tell you about California. In California, we pay about 53% tax. That's the highest tax bracket. So if I had $640,000 and I took that for $640,000, guess what tax bracket I would be on? The absolute highest. And it's unfortunate because most people say, well, Virginia, when you're a senior citizen, there's a tax discount. No, there isn't. There's no such thing. The IRS does not care how old you are. They just care about getting their fair share. Sometimes it's unfair, but nevertheless, right? So what if I told you there was a way that you can actually do that and you didn't have to pay a dime or a nickel of it in taxes, legally and ethically? Would that be something that could help you grow your money faster? Before we even get there, how many of you guys are interested? Virginia, where the heck am I going to get the 12%? Where am I going to get 8%? Where do I get 10% or even 4%? Anybody interested in that? Yeah. How many of you guys have ever looked at how money works as a whole? Like, where do interest rates come from? People throw phrases like mutual funds and stocks and bonds and, all these other verbiages, right? And you go, well, what does that mean? Is it safe? Does it work for me? When I need it the most, is it going to be there? Am I going to need to face another 2008 when the market crashed and people were devastated, right? What if I want safety? Do I have to sacrifice return? Let me show you something that's so important for all of us to understand before you get to saving. Rule of 72 is wonderful, but it's just it's a hypothetical illustration of how money works if you have constant interest growing at it. Does that make sense? One thing I can tell you is most interest rates you receive are not constant. So they're based on averages. But you want the averages to be on your side, not against you. Is that right? So let me show you how do you earn money through the banking way, which is a fixed interest, index or investment. How many of you guys have ever heard of indexed accounts? Awesome. Index funds. Yes, absolutely. You said that, right? You're going to get a book. And you raise your hand in the back? Okay, make sure you see me. You're going to get a book. All right. So let's talk about this. Most people invest in something called the banking strategy, okay? It's not necessarily the bank. It's just the banking strategy. Why? Because most people want safety for their money. It's hard earned. Yes? But unfortunately, whatever the bank pays you, I gotta tell you, it doesn't keep up with inflation. That means the cost of living is growing a lot higher. How many guys don't even charge according to the cost of living index? Like the price is going up, it's costing you money, but you're afraid of raising your own prices. That ever happen? Yes? Well, I'll tell you, the government's raising their prices, so you gotta be able to understand, you gotta do the same. You gotta charge what you're worth. You gotta charge what your time is worth. So most people are used to the banking side because they've got the safety that they think of, but it doesn't keep up with inflation. And if you walk into any financial institution today, including banks, they also have something called the investment section, okay? In the investment section, you can also invest in money markets, you can invest in mutual funds, you're basically trusting your money, as the gentleman said earlier, to a professional money manager to manage your money for a chance of a higher rate of return. How many of you guys have ever used money management or mutual funds before? Maybe at a 401k or an IRA before, okay? So whether you know it or not, you use management. And here's the thing, what you have to understand about management, whether they are managing your money properly or they're mismanaging your money improperly, you're still paying fees. Is that fair? No. If they lose your money and you're still being charged for mismanagement, is that fair? No. So the market risk does not go away. That could be the best management out there, but there's no guarantee against the loss because we don't know what the market's going to do. Does that make sense? The market's been a little up and down in the last month. If you're in the wrong cycle, you probably lost some. It probably dipped a little bit. What if I told you there was a third door? What if I told you you can actually take the best of both worlds? What if there was a way for your money to actually earn a market-like return? But at the same time, it gave you the guarantee and the safety that if the market ever crashed, your money was never, ever in jeopardy. That's the index account. Let me show you. Index brings you the safety of what the fixed accounts give you and gives you the market-like return that the market gives you without going through the losses. So let's put some numbers together because these things are kind of all over the place. And you know, I'm a numbers person, but I don't like to complicate things. So anybody have $100 that you can give me? You get a book. You get more than a book. All right, see? All right, so here's how we're going to do this, okay? Let's say you had $100 and you put it on the line. And you're earning a fixed percent, 0.5 at the bank. And if you're earning a 0.5 at the bank and you're $100, you just earned 50 cents. How exciting. One thing that's exciting though is it's consistent. The next year you earn another 50 cents, so now you have $1 in a matter of 2 years. Woohoo! Excited? No. Okay. So what's on the other side? Investments. Look how exciting this is, okay? 1 year, maybe you put in your money and you end up losing a little because the market's shaking. You lose 20%, but then the next year it goes up 10%, and the year after that it goes up another 10%. Are you winning at this money game or losing? You see, what the financial industries like to do, what the financial institutions like to do is they like to give you statements that are based on interest rate, not so much focused on your dollar amount. So if you look and see what is highlighted, what is in bold, what is in big pictures, is usually the interest rate. Because minus 20 plus 10 plus 10 usually tells you in your mind that you're at least at par, right? You lost, but you made it up, so you should be at par. Is that right? But in reality, when you look at the dollar amount, are you at par or are you at a loss? We're at a loss. The reason why from 2008 to 2018 it was called the lost decade is because a lot of people had lost money in 2008. Their 401ks became a 201k. And it took them about 8 to 10 years to bring that money back up. That's time lost. You see, my friends, one thing you can always do is you can always switch your investment strategy around, but one thing you'll never get back is the time that you've already lost in that product or in that situation. So what does the index do? You put in the same $100 in the same scenario. When the market is low, it'll give you a fixed rate of return. Sometimes the only guarantee that you get is just your $100 is still in your account. It just carries over to the next year. Not every index fund is going to give you a minimum rate of return. But when the market goes up, it also gives you a cap. A cap is the maximum you could earn. A maximum you can earn. So if the market does 20% and your cap is at 10%, you earn 10%. Make sense? But the 10% and another 10%, you tell me where would you want your money to be in one of those strategies. And if you look at the averages, because we always based on averages as an investment advisor, in the last 20 to 30 years, the market without any guarantees, the highs and lows, the ups and downs, has averaged about 6%. A little over 6%. If you put a guarantee with a maximum of 13%, it's averaged over 7%. 1% compounded in 30 years gives you a big fat return. We just looked at that. Does that make sense? Yes? So numbers don't lie, but if you're looking at the right number, it doesn't lie. So let's look at what you can do with this. What's your strategy on taxes? So we talked about the rule of 72. We talked about how many compounds, where you can have it as a strategy. And let's talk about taxes, because at the end of the day, most of you in here are self-employed, yes? You are your business owner, and I gotta tell you something phenomenal about that fact. You get to control your tax bracket. How awesome is that? You absolutely get to control your tax bracket. If I ask you a question, something like, how many of you guys know what tax bracket you're on? How many of you guys would know that? 3 people, 5 people, 6 people. Wow, we've got a room of over 100 people here. It was only 6 people. Do you see the difference there? Yes? Do you think we should know about that? Do you think we should know about that before we are taught to invest in, IRAs or Roth IRAs? Most people don't want to pay taxes today, but they don't know that their tax bracket is so low that they should pay taxes today and put that money to work for them, because later on they can use that money tax-free. How many of you guys like tax-free? I'm going to show you how to use that. So let's talk about this, okay? 17, page 17. If you're with me, if you have a book on you, flip through page 17. If not, don't worry. You can look at the screen. So what does this mean? Tax now, tax later, tax never. In the United States, in the good old United States, there's actually 3 methods of us paying taxes. 3. There are 3 investment strategies. There are 3 different ways you pay taxes. 3 is a pretty good number to remember in the financial industry, right? Most people, however, are in the first column where they're paying taxes every single year. What is that? If you've got money working for you and it's got a small interest growing, regardless of the amount of interest, checking, savings, CDs, stocks, you buy it, you sell it, you got to pay taxes on it. Mutual funds, you get a 1099, you don't liquidate your fund to pay your taxes, but you include it amongst the money that you need to pay for your taxes. So everything that you see in this first column is taxable. That means every single year you have to pay your taxes. Now, if you forget or you don't pay your taxes, you're going to be reminded by the IRS that you needed to pay taxes, and it's not going to end very well because they get a 1099 from the bank or the institution, and you get a 1099. Even if it's low, it needs to be accounted for. Because here's the thing: maybe for you it's $1, maybe for you it's $10. It's not a big deal, right? But imagine how many $10 the bank issues. A lot, right? And the IRS has to account for every single $10 that they've issued. So if they've issued it, you got to claim it. If you don't claim it, there's a communication problem. The banks are pretty clear about what they issue. Who do you think they're going to go after, the bank or you? You. So you don't want to be there, right? The second part of how taxes work is a tax later account. Tax later account is just a fancy way of saying you're not going to pay now, but you're going to pay later. When later? Anybody know when? When you take it out, when though? They tell you, you can't just take it out whenever you want to take it out. What does retirement mean in the eyes of the IRS? A little sooner than that, 59 and a half. 59 and a half. So if you've got your money in this bucket, you cannot touch it until 59 and a half. 59 and a half. So if you've got a 401k, how many of you guys work for maybe like a large brand? Okay, so maybe you have a 401k. If you work for a non-profit organization, it's called 403b. Right? So if you have a business and if you have people that you've hired and you're writing them checks, there's also subsidies available to you as a small business owner where they give you $1 per dollar credit. So imagine if you got 25 to 50% of what you spent on premium to help your employees out as a benefit, you get back. Do you think that's pretty beneficial? And that's available in every single state. If your earnings at a certain dollar amount, again, adjusted gross. How many of you guys adjust your gross? You should. And don't worry, if you're buying a house, if you're working with a CPA, they know exactly how to set your taxes together, so that way you can qualify for that and that. And if you're able to do that, guess what happens? A lot of times you get complete subsidized health care, where you don't have to pay a dime. I'm going to go through questions in a minute, just hang on to it. Okay, so where, how does that work? It's online. You can go online, you can get your information. If not, you can see me, we can talk about it later. I'll send you some information. But it's important that you knew this. Life insurance. Somebody had a question about life insurance. What's important? What's the right plan? Term or permanent, right? Term or whole life. I want you to know that there is no such thing as the right kind of plan. Again, it's all about you. Where do you want to be in life? What's important to you? Do you want permanent coverage or do you want temporary coverage? I'm a firm believer that in our life, we have 2 kinds of needs. A need that goes away, it's temporary, like your kids growing up and growing out of the house, you paying off your debt. And then there's always a permanent need. You know what the permanent need is? Income to ourselves. Right? So what happens if something happens to you and you cannot work? Well, Ricky was up here, he talked about his story, right? Yes, I was able to help him with his health insurance bills. What about his rent? What about his mortgage? What about his car payment? What about his other policies? What about his other expenses? Do you guys have other expenses outside of your health bill? Absolutely. So who gets to pay for that? And if your spouse is not working, MasterCard rejects it, Visa is no longer available, Discover, they don't accept it everywhere, who gets to pay those bills? And that's a harsh reality we live in. What if I could show you that there's an opportunity where you can actually combine products together? So that way, if you live a long life, you get to take advantage of tax advantage money. If something happens to you and you're disabled, short-term or long-term, you actually have an insurance policy that'll pay you to stay home and take care of yourself until you get back on your feet. And what if I told you there's a long-term care policy tied to a life insurance policy where if you don't die, but you've got long-term care issues, money's always coming in, so you never have to worry about you going out there sacrificing your health to create wealth. That's important for every single entrepreneur. You know why? Because you make your own paycheck. You write your own bills. Is that right? Nobody gives you these benefits outside of you, so you got to learn, how do I protect my own income? And we'll talk about that. So tax advantage. What the heck does really tax advantage mean? If you look at page 19 or on the screen, tax advantage says that a tax advantage means that you generally won't pay taxes when you withdraw money from that specific account. Benjamin Franklin said there are two things that are guaranteed in life. Who can tell me what they are?
Death and taxes.
Death and taxes, you're very familiar with it. Yes, death I can't save you from, but taxes I can do a pretty good job at helping you find opportunities, right? So let's talk about this. There's a product out there that has it's a hybrid, okay? Hybrid meaning what? Most people today are afraid of four things. There are four things that are in their mind. Number one, running out of money. What if I retire and I run out of money? Is that a pretty important thing to think about? Running out of money. I was just speaking outside. I walked out for a minute, and there's a lovely lady out there. And she's really pretty, and she told me, Virginia, I've been a hairdresser all my life now. I just took some time off because the older I get, the more I see that I need consistent income. I can't just rely on my haircuts. And I said, it's probably because you never saved enough in the beginning for you to have comfort later on. She said, yeah, you're right. Now I have to heavily depend on a paycheck, so I have 3 jobs so that I can depend on the paycheck. And at home, I still have my little booth where I do hair. Most people, the older we get, the more we get worried about outliving our money, running out of money when we need it the most. Some of you guys have that as a concern. And you're not even old, right? You're still in your younger years. The second thing most people worry about is, if something happens to me prematurely, that means unexpected, from now until when my desired retirement age is, or desired outcome is, what happens to my responsibilities? What happens to my rent? What happens to my kids? What happens to me? Where do I eat from? Right? How am I going to put food on the table? Does that make sense? What happens to me? So if anything happens to my income-making ability, that means I get injured. I'm in coma. I'm not the way I used to be. My hand doesn't work. I've got nerve damage. How many of you guys have any kind of signs of arthritis? Okay. Do you think it's going to get better or worse? Worse. Worse, right? How many of you guys have back issues? Most people, it just comes with the territory, right? So the average wear and tear, is that going to get better or worse? Worse. So if it gets worse, and sometimes you end up like my mom in an accident in your own home, and you can't do what you need to do, who's going to take care of you? So that's the second thing. Something happens to you, you're alive, but you can't take care of other things. The third part is your family. You want to make sure that everything that you create channels to somebody. How many of you guys have ever looked at putting together like a will or a trust? Because it's your money, it's your asset, right? Who are you creating it for? In California, every state is different, but in California, if you don't have an estate plan, the state's going to have one for you, but you're not going to like it. You know why? Because they want 5 to 15% of your gross assets. So in California, it's pretty easy to have a little 1-bedroom, whatever, ugly house in a so-so neighborhood, priced at about $1 million. And they don't care what you still owe on the house. Something happens to you and you don't have a trust, 10% of that, at least, needs to go to probate court before that house is released to your family. So are we creating more debt to our family, or are we creating more assets? So protecting our family is important. And the fourth part of this whole storyline is, again, you, taxes. We want to make sure that we can use what we create for ourselves with as many tax-free benefits. Tax advantage. The IRS does not like the saying free. Any IRS people in here? Remember, I asked, you didn't say anything, okay? So they don't like us saying tax-free, tax advantage. You got to use as many tax advantage plans as out there. So I'm going to show you a product that's out there in the marketplace. If you deal with whoever you deal with in the insurance industry, they all have this. I just want you to know about what's out there, so that way when you're making decisions, you're making informed decisions. Does that make sense? And if you want some more information, everything you need to know about money is in this book. Everything from healthcare to you care, to seeing who else cares, because nobody cares, it's just you care, to being able to understand taxes and everything else. So this is a product for a 30-year-old, because remember I use the average age of 29. Yes? Earlier? Short-term memory? You're not losing it already, are you? Okay, it's a form of long-term care if you are, so come see me afterwards. But this is a product for somebody who was illustrated at 30 years of age. You do not have to be a 30-year-old. You could be a 50-year-old, 60-year-old, 70-year-old. This product still works. It just needs to be designed in a different way. But this is something that I'm going to show you how you can put your money to work for you with a product that's called Index Universal Life with long-term care benefits. You want to maybe write that down, and that's familiar to you? Index Universal Life with long-term care benefits. So here's a 30-year-old. Setting aside $500 a month. Is $500 the minimum? No, you can put less than that. This is just an illustration. How much less? That's a personal question. Okay, so that's something that you've got to sit down with an advisor, and you can ask me about that later on. So you're putting in $500 a year, and it's a month, and I put $500 because the traditional maximum amount that you can put in an IRA or a Roth IRA is also $500 a month, which is $6,000 a year. Yes? So comparing apple to apple. So if you put $6,000 a year, you see the first column says 31, that's your age. The second column is the years that you've had the plan. The third column is the annual premium that you've been putting in here, the savings amount that you're putting in there. Withdrawals and loans, that means you've got nothing that you're taking out yet. The net premium outlay means that for the years that you've had the plan, that's how much money you've invested, right? So you want to keep account as to how much you've invested. Policy values is actually what you've earned in the product. So what happens here is you put in $500, a chunk of it goes to pay for cost of insurance and long-term care, and the other portion is invested in a cash value accumulation that you can use tax-free. How many of you guys like tax-free again? Tax-free, that's right, so I'll talk about that more. So the last column, the death benefit, is actually the dollar amount that your family receives should anything happen to you when you pass away and you've not used this money at all. So it accumulates. The cash value and the life insurance amount accumulates and it goes to your death benefit. This is not a whole life insurance policy. I want to be clear about that. This is not a whole life insurance policy. This is called Universal Life with Index. So let's look at this. As I mentioned, $500. If you look at age 65, it shows that you've paid into the plan about $210,000. Do you guys see that? Yes? Okay. And you have accumulated $805,000. Yes? $805,000 tax-free money is a lot of money. So you put in 210, you've got $806,000 almost. You look at the next column, it says 1.3 million. What does that represent? That represents the amount of money your family will receive should anything happen to you when you pass away. You guys good with the basics so far? I'm taking an extra minute just to go over this because I'm going to show you what values come out later, and I want you to see the values are only dependent on your understanding of these numbers. So just to take it further, what happens at 65? Well, I've strategized in this plan where at 65, that's the last year you pay. So from 66 forward, you do not pay any more money, and you actually start to take money out of the plan. So the $805,000 that you had in your cash value accumulation, that continues to earn interest based on the index strategy that we talked about. So it's making money while you're taking money from it. This is important because most people put their money into coma. They put it in a bank, they put it under their mattress, they put it under the pillow, and they start taking money from it. You're killing your money, you're not allowing it to grow. So here, you're not paying any more into it, but you're allowing it to grow, and you're withdrawing interest from it. So you're taking about $5,000 a month. You put in $500 a month, you're taking out $5,000 a month. Is that a pretty good trade-off? $5,000 a month tax-free is equal to about $8,000 a month. Does that make sense yet, you guys? Yes? So take a look at this. If you do that, what does the first column say? Withdrawal, doesn't it? Yes? See, life insurance industry has something that the life insurance industry has some empowering laws that the investment industry does not. In the insurance industry, everything you put into a plan, you get to take out free from taxes, free from any penalties, free from anything. It's called first in, first out. So whatever my money I put in, I get to take out tax-free. It's called a withdrawal. Make sense? The second column, this is why I said this is not a whole life insurance policy. This is an index universal life insurance policy. Life insurance companies will charge you an interest for using your own money. Is that fair? No, it's your money. Why should you pay interest? So if you have a product like this, maybe you say, Virginia, my life insurance policy has cash value. Great. Here's what I want you to look into. Does it have wash loan provisions? Write that down somewhere. Wash loan provision. What that means is you're taking money out of the account. They're charging you maybe 3%, 4%, but they're also crediting you the 3 to 4% for being a loyal client of theirs. Does that make sense? It's called a wash loan provision. So that way, if they charge you 3%, they credit you 3%, how much do you end up paying them? Nothing. How many of you guys love paying nothing for using your own money? That's important for you to know. Here's what else. In the matter of from 66 until 95. Anybody planning on living past 95? I am. How many of you guys don't even think you'll get to 95? Come on. Why not? You know people are living longer today. There's a longevity factor. I don't know if you've heard of that or not. Ladies, especially you get to live a lot longer. So imagine until 85, bro. So how many years is that? If you're getting income from 65 to 95, how many years is that? That's 30 years. That's 30 years of $60,000 a year tax-free. You've just taken out $1.58 million. You've taken out the $210,000 yours, and you've taken out $1.5 million. Who can tell me? You had $800,000 in your account. How in the world did you take $1.5 million? Because your principal continued growing while you were taking a portion of it every single year. Does that make sense? Yes? The amount of money that's growing is more than the amount of money that you're taking out. So imagine this. You take out this money, and at 95, if your back starts to give you issues, if your hands start to give you issues, chances are they'll give you issues ahead of time. Is that right? But as problems start happening, what if I told you you had access to 2% of that $500,000 tax-free through your long-term care provision? So whether you're 25, you get into an accident, or you're 95, you're going through the stages of disability or long-term care naturally, now that $500,000 is your hybrid. So instead of having it expire when your kids are 30, it continues for when you are 60, 70, 80. And if you can take 2% of the $500,000, my friends, that's $10,000 a month tax-free. Can you think of what you can do with that money? Tax-free? So let me show you what you put in and what you get out. It's important that in any financial strategy, you've got these 4 cornerstones. Growth, safety, tax advantage, and most importantly, protecting your income, protecting your bottom line, right? So the first thing that we talked about was the growth factor. This is an illustration showing you the max that you can earn at 13%. The numbers are not based on 13%, they're based on 7%. And a minimum, or an 8%, and a minimum of $800,000 is what's earned, right? So based on the high and the low, 13% high, 0.75 low, average interest about 8.82%, that's created about $800,000. So you see, you don't need the 12% for you to make a crazy amount of money in your portfolio. Does that make sense? Compounding, it's huge. So you've created $800,000 by your $210,000. We've talked about the guarantee, the safety, that even though the market crashes, you don't lose any money. Tax advantages, what was it? Well, you're growing your money without ever having to pay taxes. That's in the accumulation phase. And even in the distribution phase, when you're taking money in, all the withdrawals are free, which is your $210,000. The rest of the money that you have access to, you get to access $60,000 a year. Can you take more than that? Yes. Can you take less than that? Yes. So why do I have $60,000? Just as an illustration purpose. So you get to take about $1.6 million out of the entire policy while you are alive tax-free, and you still have the protection of $500,000. So anything happens to your life, what you have not used in your cash and your life insurance goes to your family. And if you need it for your own protection, from the time that you buy it until you die, whenever that is, in case you become sick, disabled, or you can't do 2 out of the 6 ordinary activities, you always have access to that $500,000, even in your early ages. Maybe you get into a car accident. Maybe you just need about a year of money for you to be able to rehabilitate yourself, right? You can tap into that $500,000. You don't need to wait for it until you're 90 years old. Does that make sense? 2% of that, tax-free, with long-term care at $10,000, you're getting over $2.3 million tax-free. That's strategy. It's difficult for me to provide you in-depth strategy for every single person that's in this room in the time that I'm given. In fact, I can't do that in a day. I can't do that in a week. I need months for that. So it's important for you to understand that this is an illustration. This does not mean that these are the numbers for every single person that participates. Perhaps this program is not the right program for you. You're not ready for something like this. Maybe you need something of a Roth IRA before you get into this vehicle. Does that make sense? My job today was to able to give you some nuggets on ways that you can save from your business, because anybody can save if they want to save. You just got to change your programming a little bit. Don't go from nothing to 100%. It's not going to happen. Or nothing from nothing to 50%. But if you change 1% each day, it only takes you 3 months to have a complete turnaround of what you do, right? But it's not doing it once, it's staying consistent at it. So if you can pay yourself first, if you can save $5 a day, anybody can save $5 a day? Yeah? You know how much money that is? That's about $150 a month. Just $5 a day. How many of you guys get more than that in tips? Hopefully. Right? What about $10 a day? Can you save $10 a day from your tips? Absolutely. If you can do that, you can be in this program. The earlier you start with the age, the more you save, the more you're going to have. The later you start, the more you should focus on the long-term care aspect of it. Let me give you a couple of statistics and I'll take some questions. Most people that are receiving long-term care today, about 40% of the recipients that are getting long-term care are in the ages of 18 to 64. This is long-term care is not an old people thing. Accidents happen, just like Zito. You know that if he had that plan, he didn't have to worry at all about his business, at all about his bills. Do you think consciously he'd have a better recovering time? Yes? What happens if there's a permanent disability? You heard his voice, right? He didn't sound like that before the accident. How many of you guys have heard of Zito before the accident? He didn't sound like that, right? And today he's losing his voice because of that accident. We never know what happens. So long-term care isn't an old people thing. Savings is not a later thing. You got to do what you can, when you can, while you can today. So I appreciate you guys being here. I appreciate you guys staying tuned. I didn't see too much movement, so this must be something that interests you. So moving forward, I'm going to show you how you can get a book. How many of you guys still want that book? Okay, so solution for the future. Here's what I want you to think about when it comes to your own financial matters, okay? We talked about growth, safety, tax advantage, and protection. Your plan for the future must have growth. Does it have growth enough to achieve your goals though? How many of you guys have ever sat down with a financial anybody to sit down and understand what is my retirement number? Anybody? Awesome. What's your retirement number, sir? Okay. Can you share what your retirement number is, sweetie? What is it? You put it for 65. Okay, so you strategize it. Do you know how much money you're going to need at 65 to do the kind of things that you want to do today? Not enough? Okay, so you know, at least you know the number, what the number is, right? Is it a scary number? Yes, it's a very scary number if you're not saving or doing anything towards it. But I tell you, if you start that habit, how many of you guys have bought, maybe you bought something like a car, or maybe you leased your place and you were so scared in the beginning because it was a lot of expense, and you are the sole caretaker for your overhead, right? And maybe you were scared in the beginning, but now it's like nothing, it's routine, it just comes out and it's going through a flow. Has that ever happened? Yes? So life always is better when things are in a flow. So if you start with something that you feel comfortable with, that no matter what you can set aside, every year add 10%. And before you know it, you're going to be saving exactly the amount you need. And you're going to look back and you go, my God, 5 years ago I would have told her to get out of my face. This is ridiculous. This is not going to happen. I am not in the position to do this. But today is different because you go through little by little. You got to go through life with one step over the other. It's too difficult to make a leap. Does that make sense, guys? Yes? So having that goal is important. Second is safety. Is it safe enough? Is it going to be there when you need it? The third thing is the tax advantage we talked about. And at the end of the day, protecting your income for yourself and for your family. That's what's most important. So you got to build with confidence. So here's what I'm going to do. How many of you guys have a phone? All right. I want you to take it out. Take it out real quick. I'll give you something. Okay, first of all, say cheese. That was lame. Thank you anyway. So here's what I want you to do. I want you to take out your phone and I want you to text. Okay? I want you to text Barber, the word Barber, to number 26786. If you text Barber to this number, 26786, you're going to get a pop-up. It's going to ask you what you want to learn more about. And I'm going to give you some information. I'm going to send it to you. I'm going to give you some information about whatever it is that you picked. Estate planning, retirement needs, information. It is just information. Don't ask me about product. It's information. You got to get educated first. Most importantly, if you leave me your information, your phone number is already recorded if you text it, but your email address so that I can email you and get your address, your physical address, I will pay myself for the book and I will invest in all of your financial futures so that way you could never say, nobody told me. Nobody told my mom. We didn't have that opportunity. I was young. I was only 18 years old when my mom's accident happened. My dad had just died about a year before that at 54 from a heart attack. So she was the breadwinner. After her, I became the breadwinner. We almost lost the house and everything we had because we were not prepared. In real estate, they sell you the house, they do the loan, they walk away. Maybe you have homeowner's insurance, but that's all you have. Nobody ever teaches you to protect the income to serve the responsibilities you have. And I'll tell you this, even if your deal is term, you like term versus permanent insurance, nothing wrong with that, but I want you to know that you can add living benefits to your term insurance policy, like the long-term care, in case something happens to you, you can use the insurance amount while you're alive, not to wait when you're dead. Let your money work for you guys. It's too hard to work for money all our lives and then just sit there and wait for the government to take care of us. It's not going to happen. I hope you're not depending on Social Security or what I call Social Security, and I hope you can create more opportunities for you. Again, my name is Virginia Nersessian. I'm blessed to be here. I appreciate your time. I appreciate Jay for putting this incredible event out there for everybody. Let's make this country great again by making sure that every entrepreneur has the tools they need to max out at all levels of their life, especially when it comes to making a financial difference for themselves. So I'm going to take a couple of questions. Do I have time? I have about a minute. Maybe I can take a couple of questions from the audience, and yes. I'll repeat the question. Oh, okay, go ahead.
How do you trust someone to be your financial advisor and tax preparer?
Okay, very good question. I think the best way you can go about it is maybe ask some people who have experience with the person. But I'll tell you this, in the world of social media, I'm sure it's no surprise to you to understand that anybody could put credentials on their title, you understand? Like financial advisor is nothing but a credential. Anybody could add that on. They have the licenses, they could add that on. It doesn't mean anything. It really doesn't mean anything. You want to make sure that you're working with somebody who understands your industry. Because being a business owner in your specific industry is very different because people have different kinds of habits, right? Their systematic investments are different. So an interview process is always a good process to go through and feel it. Start with something small, something you feel comfortable with. And if you see this person really has your interest, they're asking you what you want, not what they have. And it's also very important for you to understand you've got to work with somebody who can give you options. They shouldn't just give you one product to solve all your solutions. They shouldn't give you one company to strategize for everything that you need. That doesn't exist. There's so many companies out there, products and services, that you need education first and foremost. So we as a company, we actually have a financial literacy campaign, and we have offices all across the US and Canada. We believe in you learning for yourself. Come, learn. You're smart enough to do it yourself. At least you know the path that you want. Nobody should tell you where to go. But you got to make a decision based on being informed. So if our workshops can help you and you've emailed me, we'll be in touch. Let me know. I'll send you where our workshop centers are. They're absolutely free of charge. We believe in impacting the community in a positive way. Go, learn. What you do with the information is entirely up to you, but absolutely learn. Don't be afraid of buying a book. Don't be afraid of paying for a class just so that you can learn. Okay? Very good question. Maybe this gentleman, somebody here had a question. Yes?
I want to get more information on who I have to look up to.
So you can again always go online, but if you texted I will send you information, and if you want to get some more information from me, or you want me to help you find somebody local in one of our offices, we can definitely do that. Go check it out. If you feel comfortable with them, you can work with them. Make sense?
Thank you.
No problem. Anybody else?
Right here.
Yes. 2 more questions, and then yes, sir. Very good question. So financial advisors a lot of times don't like insurance because they don't get paid for that. And insurance advisors don't like financial advisors because they don't get paid for that. We work with somebody who can give you a universal platform, somebody who can give you access. Look for not an agent as much as a company, and if you don't know which company to look for, I'll give you a word. If you're interested in like the long-term care aspect of it, make sure you, whatever you do, they give you wash loans, and you have something called an indemnity plan. Okay? Indemnity is a fancy way of saying, hey, give me the money, let me work on what I need to pay. I don't need you to pay anybody. Give me the money and I'll take care of what I need to pay. Right? And again, if you emailed or you texted, we'll get you some information. I'm not going to remember everybody and all these questions, so just remind me when we contact each other. Remind me, hey Virginia, I need this. Can you give me more information on this? All right? And one last question, yes.
What about if you already have like a life insurance policy?
Very good.
And you want to do something like this now?
Yes.
Is that separate, or do you stop the life insurance and go to this?
Very good question. Sometimes you already have a product set in place. It is very likely that your insurance company, I don't know who that is.
I had Mutual of Omaha, but just recently I switched over. My agent called me up and said he had a better plan for me, so I switched over to the other one.
What's the company
I don't
name?
I don't have it off the top of my head.
Okay, Mutual of Omaha has a product similar to this with long-term care.
Uh-huh.
Most companies you deal with will have the long-term care. It's called a rider. Okay, rider.
Okay.
Rider is an additional benefit that you can add to your original policy.
Okay.
For very little more per month, you can add that in. You don't have to completely change everything.
Oh.
But if you have something that you started, like a 401k, like an IRA, you can actually roll it over so that way it has enhanced benefits that'll work for you in life.
Yeah, I was dumb. I had a 401k for a lot of years, and I cashed it out when I lost that job back a long time ago. You know, that was a big mistake that I made, not reinvesting that money.
Yeah.
Something that you kick yourself for a lot of years. But even being 50 years old, is it too late to start this kind of a plan, or?
No.
Okay.
No, definitely not. Definitely not.
Okay.
And I hope you texted. We'll get you some more information.
I did. And I think we're